The president's remarks did cause consternation in Sweden, which normally only gets global attention for IKEA and pop music and its nice people. For more on the Swedish reaction, we're joined by Ann-Sofie Näslund. She's U.S. correspondent for Expressen. That's a Swedish newspaper, and we bet a good one. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we've seen a lot of speculation today as to what people in Sweden think. And my question is, I don't really know how you could get to the truth of that. Because in Sweden, as we were just talking about a minute ago, you can be punished, you can be imprisoned for giving an unpopular opinion. So in a society that practices censorship like that, are people free to really say what they think?
I mean, you talked about Peter Springer, one of the guys.
The policeman,
yeah,
that's exactly right. Yep.
That posted something on Facebook.
Right.
But, you know, that case was dropped straight away. So he's not under investigation anymore. And
but he was, though.
He was for a little while, but then, you know, because someone reported on him, but it was dropped.
Right, and I'm glad he's free tonight. But he's a cop who said, look, the majority of the crimes I investigate are committed by immigrants, and he was investigated by your government for a crime. I mean, that's got to have a chilling effect, to put it mildly, on people's willingness to say what they really think, no?
But I think what you're talking about, people going to prison for talking about these issues, as far as I know, that's only been Nazis.
Been what?
Nazis.
Bad people.
Oh, sorry, neo-Nazis and
Bjornquist? Well, I mean, there are probably people whose opinions I don't agree with, but there are people, and you might not either, but there's still people expressing their political opinions who've gone to prison for those opinions. And that's just foreign to us here, but it has an effect on what people are willing to say in public, don't you think?
I mean, there has been a discussion about what you can say in public, as you know, people are talking about here what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say, and things like that. But I mean, obviously he posted this on Facebook, and all the media reported about it, and it's not like, you know, and nothing is going to happen to him. So you know, that's.
Well, but as a journalist, you can't be in favor of that, can you? I mean, people should be allowed to say what they think, shouldn't they?
Of course, and people are reading about it in the media now, and people are discussing it, and you know, it's all out there. It's not that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, so there's a book called Mass Challenge, which is written by this Kurdish economist, and I think it's one of the biggest-selling books in Sweden. The Carroll Library in Stockholm, which is a real library, I looked it up, refused to put this book on the racks because, and I'm quoting now the librarian, library collections ought to be characterized by diversity and pluralism. They're basically just saying we're not going to let people read the book because we disagree with it.
I don't know about why and if that's true that they don't have that book. Sorry.
But do you think, I mean, you're from Sweden. Mm-hmm. You've been here 4 years, so you can tell the difference between the two cultures. If I were at a party of educated people and said, you know, immigrants are committing a lot of crime, so they're much more likely to commit crime than a Swedish-born person, which is true, by the way. How would that go over? Would people say that's true, or what are the statistics, or would they say, how dare you say that?
I mean, right now, the situation in Sweden is that the crime rate is actually decreasing. And there are some numbers that are rising, like the gun violence, for example. But it's, as far as we know, and what studies show so far, is that has to do with people coming in from the EU, the European Union. It has, as far as we know, what it looks like, that has nothing to do with the refugees coming in. So you know, that really doesn't really have to do with.
Well, I don't know. I mean, so here's the Swedish National Council. I'm not making this up. BRA, it's what Ami was just saying. According to their stats, rape was up 13% last year, 2016. That's a big rise. Overall, crimes were up in 2016, 6.5%. That's 1.5 million crimes. That's a lot of crimes.
Well, I don't know exactly where you got those numbers from.
From the Swedish National Council.
Yeah, okay. The numbers that we've been looking at, and I mean, I'm not here to defend Sweden or anything. I'm a news
I like
reporter.
Sweden. I'm not against Sweden.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a news reporter. But if you look at the overall numbers and what has been going on for in a long term, the numbers are definitely going down. It's decreasing, but and actually one of the crimes that has been decreased the most during last year, that was rape. But also, if you look at rape in a wider historical perspective, or like 10 years or 15 years, there are some periods of time when it's gone up because the definition of rape and sexual assault in Sweden has been wider. So more incidents are now considered being rape and sexual assault. So that could be one of the reasons, if you look at your numbers, I'm not sure exactly what numbers you have, but that could be one of the reasons why it's now look like looks like it's been more of them when it's actually
because
just
the definition, right?
Yeah.
That may be true. Just again, these are government numbers from Sweden. This is not something that I cooked up in my office backstage. But the overall crime rate, they said in 2016, 1.5 million more crimes than the year before. But look, I mean, the numbers are pretty clear. Sweden stopped keeping crime stats based on national origin in 2001 because they were embarrassing. But when they did keep them, they showed, why else would they not keep them, that foreign-born men were far more likely, 4 or 5 times more likely to commit violent crimes, sex crimes, than Swedish-born men. I'm not saying they're all bad, but that's like a real thing. Are people allowed to say that there?
In 2015, the police started to put a special code for crimes that was related to a lot of people coming in as refugees.
Right, to the new wave of refugees.
And what we've seen so far, I mean, this has just been a short time.
Right.
It's just 1% of the reported crimes that has anything to do with refugees.
With those refugees.
Yeah. So it's not like it's been. I mean, I've heard you talking about this on your show, that it's been a crime wave or a rape wave. That is not what we see in Sweden, or the numbers that are reported in Sweden. Actually, was as I mentioned, it was 1% in that study.
For those refugees. But again, 13% crime spike in rapes, that's a lot. I mean, you could say, well, the definition has broadened, okay, but it's presumably there's still real rapes.
But also another side of that is when they ask women if they have ever been sexually assaulted or raped, that number actually rises a little bit. And one of the reasons for that was that maybe that was things that happened way, many years ago. And now they realize, oh, hang on, that maybe was a rape. And now they're saying, yeah, that happened to me. But the numbers, women reporting rape and sexual assault, that has not gone up.
Okay. I'm not sure I fully understand, but I appreciate the perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Well, President Trump's comments have put Swedish crime stats under the microscope, as you've just seen. A lot of outlets have scrambled for some reason to rebut the notion that there's been a crime wave in Sweden. Vox asserts that concerns about migrant crime reflect, and I'm quoting now, a long history of sexual panics in the West about non-white immigrants. Is it that simple, though? Is concern about immigration in Sweden really just about white racism? Well, until last month, Zita Raji was the U.S. ambassador to Sweden, and she joins us now for some perspective. Ambassador, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Tucker.
So it seems we've just been talking about what the actual crime numbers are, and I don't know if we're really going to get to the truth of it, but it does seem clear to me that there is legitimate concern about it in Sweden, whether or not the average person feels free to express that. And one of the ways we know that is because the government itself said recently, wow, too many people are coming into this country, and there's a social cost to this. If the wave of refugees and immigrants wasn't a problem, why would they slow it down as they have?
Well, thank you. Tucker, I'm here for 2 reasons. One is that I think facts matter. People make decisions based on what they believe to be true, and those decisions have consequences. Now more than ever, when there is so much misinformation, and we have a president that takes advantage of a wide range of resources, and you should be privileged to be one of them, in giving him information to make important policy decisions for our country. So it's really important, and I appreciate the opportunity to have this dialogue with you. I saw your show earlier, and I thought it was great when you talked about that we need to move beyond, let's say, that you mentioned the personality of the president or the tweets, and we need to talk about the core issues, and we need to figure out how to have a lot of people come here and how to have them invested in our country. I thought those were really great questions. So I think that, what's really interesting to me, you had some great guests, and the Swedish journalist that you had, I think she got in the details of these statistics enough that I really want to say I can certainly get into the weeds on this with you. For the last 2 years, I've been steeped in this very much. I've seen statistics and reports and numbers, and I would just point out that none of what I have seen backs up the claims that Mr. Horowitz has made in the interview that he had with you, and I watched it twice, and I tried to listen for specific evidence or sources that he would state, and I didn't hear that. Perhaps I missed it, but it seemed to me that it was more anecdotal.
I don't think you did. No, actually, he gave statistics from the Swedish National Council, which I think is part of the Ministry of Justice there.
Not this one. I'm talking about the earlier. I'm talking about the earlier interview from which the president.
That suggested there's been an absolute rise in reported crimes, in arrests. And these rape stats are real. And I know people said, well, that's because somehow the women are including rapes from before. Okay, maybe that's true. I'm not an expert in Swedish crime stats, but the overall crimes have gone up 1.5 million in a year.
Well, I don't think it's for me to talk. I think we can sit here and talk about Swedish rape stats. And as your guest just pointed out, I think that one of the reasons, and I'm not an expert on Swedish rape stats, but I do know that a lot of the statistics, the crime rate has not skyrocketed as has been claimed.
Okay.
And one of the reasons among many that those rape stats may be high, again, I'm not an authority on that, is because Sweden encourages people to come forward.
Okay, but it's
let
not
me
just.
move on from that for a minute,
sorry,
because I think that.
I'm sorry, Ambassador. I don't want you to filibuster. You just said that facts matter, and so I just threw out that the overall crime rate has gone up 1.5 million crimes in a year. Now, maybe that has nothing to do with the refugees flooding into the country, but the truth remains that the government, the Prime Minister, have said point blank, it's just too many people. We can't handle it. And so I wonder why it's so controversial for Americans to note that this is a problem, when the Swedish government itself is saying that.
Absolutely. So you nailed this right now. So that's what I want to get to, because it's really interesting to me that for the last 2 days we've been talking about Sweden. And we're talking about this, and I think what the real conversation is, what we're really saying, this is a conversation about security, it's about fear, and it's about misunderstanding, and it's about us. And we are talking about Sweden because what we're really talking about is, could this happen to us? And I can tell you that Sweden takes care. Sweden is a wonderful country. I can go on about it. It ranks highest in the industrial competitiveness, all that. Okay, and they have their challenges, and they have taken a lot of people, and they're dealing with the challenges. But that does not mean that that is somehow related to migrants. When you take so many people, we're never going to be Sweden. Sweden has taken about 200,000 people, over the last 3 years, proportion to our population. If we were to take that many people, we would have taken 6 to 7 million refugees in this country.
I get it, but hold on. I'm running out of patience a tiny bit, Ambassador, because you're not getting to the core of it here, which is...
What does this have to do with us, is what I'm saying. Even if what everybody's saying, that the sensationalism is true, about Sweden, crime,
Here's why it has to do with us, because the left in Sweden and the United States has exactly the same response, which is anybody who has any qualm about this, A, better shut up. In Sweden, you can face prosecution, or B, is simply just a racist. You're a bigot if you don't like it. And my point is there are real reasons not to like it. You don't have to be a bigot not to like it. There are social costs and economic costs to this, and nobody in the left wants to admit it, and I don't know why. It's very patronizing and it's very annoying to have to lie in order to meet some standard.
I would address that. Again, when Mr. Horowitz was having that interview with you initially, he was saying, well, many people are saying this, or I went to some swanky party and people were yelling at me. Let me tell you one thing, that actually made me crack up a little bit. That is suspicious to me. Swedes don't yell, particularly in swanky parties. So I don't know where he's getting his information.
I'll answer this. The Sweden Democrat, the party that was considered so right-wing and fringe 10 years ago is now vying for second place. Its support has doubled in the past 2 years. Why is that?
You want to talk about core issue. This is another country. We're talking about the politics and the demographics and the challenges of another country. Why aren't we talking about any other country? Why are we talking about Sweden?
We could talk about France. We could talk about Germany or Belgium or Great Britain. I mean, it's all of a piece, obviously.
It's obvious when I was in Sweden,
it's a template for what's happening here. That's why, as you all know, and most voters do. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's what I started out by saying. Let's talk about the core issues. We're talking about this because we think it has something to do with us.
Okay, I'm sorry. We are out of time, and I wish we'd gotten more to the points here, Ambassador, but I appreciate your expertise in coming on tonight. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.